Jubes & Co, we tackle the issues of the day with real, robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you. Every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Nightmare commute? Kick it up a gear with me, Patrick Christie's, at Drive Time, 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+, on the smart speaker app and on the GB News app. And if you've got an Alexa, all you have to say is, Alexa, play GB News. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with me, Patrick Christie's, on GB News and GB News Radio.
You're with GB News. The top story tonight, the US Secretary of State is on his way to Israel after Hamas terrorist attacks at the weekend. Antony Blinken said the US is determined to make sure Israel has all it needs to defend itself. He's due to meet senior Israeli officials, including Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and to discuss boosting military support if needed.
I'm going with a very simple and clear message on behalf of the President of the United States and on behalf of the American people. And that is that the United States has Israel's back. We have the back of the Israeli people. We have their back today. We'll have it tomorrow. We will have it every day.
And here in the UK, the Metropolitan Police has appealed for footage or images of last weekend's attack on Israel. The force's counter-terrorism unit is appealing for anyone in the UK who has direct evidence related to the terrorist attacks there. And that's after the Foreign Secretary, who's in Israel, was forced to run for cover when a siren sounded when he was on a visit today. The video was posted on social media by the Israeli Foreign Ministry. The government said James Cleverly's visit to Israel is a sign of the UK's unwavering support for the country. Let's show you live pictures of Gaza tonight, where the only power station stopped working hours ago and generators are thought to be the only source of electricity, accounting for that pool of light in the centre of your shot if you're watching on television. Well, to that end, UN Chief Antonio Guterres has appealed for a humanitarian corridor to be forged into Gaza, saying crucial life-saving supplies, including power supplies, medicines, food and water, must be allowed in. And the news reaching us tonight that a 22-year-old Irish-Israeli citizen has been confirmed dead after the Hamas attacks in Israel. Kim Damti had been attending a music festival near the Gaza border when the surprise attack by Hamas was carried out on Saturday. And earlier, a 26-year-old British man who was also at the festival working as a security guard was confirmed dead. Jake Marlowe, who'd been missing since the raid on the Supernova Festival, died trying to save his friends. His mother, Lisa, wrote on Facebook she and her family were heartbroken after hearing the crushing news. Now, in other news today, the Shadow Health Secretary says Labour would turn the NHS on its head if it got into power. Wes Streeting argued that reform is more important than pouring money into a health system that isn't working. He warned the NHS faces bankruptcy unless it's overhauled, and he set out plans to shift its focus from hospitals to providing more care in the community.
A Labour government will take immediate action to cut waiting lists. We'll provide an extra £1.1 billion to help the NHS beat the backlog, with extra clinics at evenings and weekends, providing 2 million more appointments each year. Faster treatment for patients, extra pay for staff, the first steps to cut the waiting list and beat the Tory backlog.
Wes Streeting speaking there earlier on today. Now, a Dorset councillor has lost a High Court fight with the Home Secretary over the housing of asylum seekers on the Bibby Stockholm barge in Portland. Mayor Carolyn Parks wanted to challenge the lawfulness of the use of the barge in Portland Port, saying the Home Office should have got planning permission to site it there and use it there. The vessel has been vacant since Legionella bacteria were detected on board back in August. But the Home Office says the barge is now safe for asylum seekers to return. You're with GB News across the UK on TV, in your car, on digital radio and on your smart speaker by saying play GB News. This is Britain's news channel.
Thank you, Polly. Hello and welcome to Headliners, your first look at tomorrow's papers with 3 comedians. I'm one of them. I'm Leo Kearson. I'm joined by Paul Cox and Lewis Schaefer. Cox and Schaefer, it sounds like a German film I bought off a taxi driver in 1997. How are you doing?
Oh, all right. How are you doing, Les?
Don't mention the Germans.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
I think I got away with it, though. Anyway, let's have a look at those front pages. The Daily Mail has, "The King calls them terrorists. Why can't the BBC?" The Telegraph leads with, "Royals condemn Hamas attacks as terrorism." The Times has, "Israeli coalition ready to invade." The Guardian has, "Israelis suspended between fear, grief and foreboding." The Express leads with, "Outrage over order not to jail rapists as prisons are full." The Daily Star has, "Boff reveals something we don't understand but sounds 100% legit and also a little bit frightening. The Matrix may be real. Andrew Tate was right." And those were your front pages. And let's have a closer look at those front pages, starting with the Daily Mail, Paul.
Yes, the Daily Mail, Leo. So, excuse me, the King calls them terrorists. Why can't the BBC, says the Daily Mail. So, King Charles last night condemned the barbaric acts of terrorism, whilst his son, Prince William, also suggested that they were the horrors inflicted by Hamas terrorists. Yet the BBC, Leo, still continue to call them militants. To my money, that makes the BBC cowards, absolute cowards. Militants lead unions. Terrorists slaughter babies.
Yeah, I mean,
and I can't say any more than that.
It seems an open and shut case that they're terrorists. I mean, they're causing terror amongst the civilian population using the most despicable tactics, murdering children, and deliberately targeting children as well. It's not accidental deaths. I mean, why do you think the BBC is doing this? Why is it?
Well, I don't think the BBC is wrong. The BBC it's not that they're making a mistake. It's what side the BBC is on. The BBC is on the side of, is on Team World, and Team World supports the destruction of the state of Israel, and the Team World has to be in favour of.
But I mean, you talk about Team World. All the Western nations have come out in support of Israel and condemned the attacks and the invasion.
Yeah, that's because what it is there's like two currents running at the same time. State of Israel is the last ethno-state, one language, one people, one nation. And it was the last sort of breath of European colonialism. And it was founded by America in 1920s of the idea of every language, every people have their own state. And now they don't believe that. But so the vestigial belief system.
So now the belief in the West is that we should all be multicultural, everywhere should be a melting pot. Although we've seen that can backfire. We've had the differences in our cultures within our borders shown by conflicts between pro-Israeli protesters and pro-Palestinian protesters.
But you're always going to have... I mean, obviously, this is the most contentious issue of my life right now, and you know, you're arguing two different points, which is maybe I brought the point up, which is multiculturalism. But the fact is the BBC is a tool of Team World. It's a tool of open borders. It's a tool of multiculturalism. It's a tool of you should not have a nation state. And Israel, even if Israel wasn't a Jewish state, the Arab population which surrounds Israel would want to get rid of the state of Israel. If it was all filled with English people or Germans or any other group of people, they would still be just as furious and just as angry.
Paul, do you agree with Lewis? Do you think it's the BBC is just a mouthpiece of the sort of woke ideology, the blob that runs everything and forces its ideology on us? Or because I mean, this is an ongoing thing. The BBC has repeatedly come out and said, you know, taken the side of the Palestinians and attacked Israel sometimes. I mean, just recently a BBC reporter said, you know, accused Israel of being happy to kill children, which is a very loaded phrase to use, an inflammatory phrase to use.
I think the BBC have got this incredibly wrong. There's no nuance to this. Well, you have to take this situation in isolation. I said this yesterday. You have to take the weekend's actions by Hamas, who are terrorists, in isolation for what it is at this time. Irrespective of the context, we have to... If that had been Israel, I would have done exactly the same thing. But the Palestinians, or Hamas, who are... Maybe we shouldn't... paint all the Palestinians with a Hamas brush. However, they are terrorists.
I mean, they did vote for them. They did
vote for them. But, you know, not everyone would call themselves a Tory in this country. But one thing I would say is the BBC have got it terribly, terribly wrong. And at some point, they're going to have to own up to that mistake.
Can I reiterate my thought? They haven't gotten it terribly wrong. This is what they actually believe. They actually believe that it doesn't matter what they do for the sake of...
So from their point of view, they've got it right, and we should all fall into line behind the BBC.
Yes.
Well, let's see if we will or we won't. Lewis, what's on the front cover of the Daily Express?
Well, a Paul King condemns barbaric terrorism and lights go out in Gaza. So this is the main issue of our time. In the background of everything that we're going to discuss is the fact that the end of the world is coming, and there's going to be a full-blown war.
But there must be some more cheerful news than that.
I guess there is. The cheerful news is outrage over order not to jail rapists as prisons are full. And this is judges are told by the presiding judge for England and Wales has ordered the sentencing of convicted criminals who are currently on bail to be delayed because there aren't enough spaces. There are 88,000 spaces.
But it seems ridiculous if prisons are full. I mean, maybe start with shoplifters or people who nick lead, or, you know, and people who fly tip rather than rapists. This is one of the most heinous crimes.
It wouldn't grab the headlines then, would it? I mean, I've taken a little look at Twitter this evening as this story's come out, and as most people know, I'm a centrist. I like to look at both sides of the story, and most people, particularly on the left, I should say, are saying this is a huge Tory problem because what they're doing is looking at it in the short term. This is a population problem. Let's just say, for argument's sake, this country can only take 100 beans. The ratio of crime to the amount of beans has never changed and is unlikely to change too much, but there are now loads of beans, so of those beans the ratio of criminals has grown and we don't have the space in prisons. Now you could argue that we should increase our prison size, or maybe, just maybe, we could control our population size
by eating some of the beans.
Yeah, you take a look at America. America's got 2 million people in prison or more.
Yeah.
And it's maybe 3 times the size of this country, or maybe 4. I don't know what it is. And so the fact is that British people are not punishing enough. It's a lovely country to be a criminal. It's, look at me.
He's speaking from experience.
I am. I'm walking free. They don't put enough people in prison. They don't have enough prisons. And I think it comes back from the day when there was, people got along better with each other.
I mean, I would say at this point we should probably bring back capital punishment, but the way we're going, I'll probably be hung for a tweet.
Yeah. And what are the Sun leading with, Paul?
Well, we pocketed Captain Tom's 800,000. So this is Captain Tom's daughter, and she has been in the news quite a bit lately, and her name's Hannah Ingram Moore. And there were obviously millions and millions of pounds raised during the pandemic because of Captain Tom. And she's saying that the £800,000, which is attributed to 3 books which he wrote and sold, he wanted her to keep. So she's not actually saying, oh, we kept money. She's saying we kept money that he wanted us to keep. I mean, this is the woman...
But it said in the book's prologue that it was raising money for charity.
Yeah.
And I think when you think of charity, you don't think the rich daughter of Captain Tom, who's making 85 grand a year on a salary in the charity anyway. I mean, this seems like she's really squeezing the pips to get as much money as she can.
You know what? I know the feeling. You see your grandpa, he's been a drain on you for a very long time. He's living in your house, whatever. He's not doing anything. And he's bringing in some cash.
He managed to write 3 books. I'm amazed somebody that old could write 3 books in that short a period of time.
Oh, man, she wheeled him round the garden like a charity fruit machine for about 2 years. It was just this cash cow.
No, it wasn't for 2 years.
Well, I mean, he survived. No, he survived till they took him to the Bahamas.
Till 2020. I think he died in 2021.
God rest his soul.
They took him to the Bahamas.
And they murdered him, basically. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say murdered.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't say murdered.
They effectively made his life hard to live by dragging him around the world so that they could have a holiday.
I should probably push back on that in case they want to sue you.
I feel for this. I'll say, I'm not saying they actually murdered the guy.
Please stop saying it.
I'm saying, I don't think that they murdered him, but they pushed their luck by taking him away.
I think that they loved him. I just think that they thought, there's millions here.
Yeah.
We'll just have 800k.
But then also, I mean, I'd want my daughter to have money.
Yeah, well,
I'd probably want my daughter to have money more than I'd want a charity to have money, or the NHS to have money, to be honest, if I'm being truthful.
It's a good point, and for all we know, within his will, this 800k was written. Yeah. So therefore, she wouldn't have anything to be upset about.
OK. And finally, what's in the front cover of the Daily Star, Lewis?
Oh, the Daily Star says Boff reveals something we don't understand, but sounds 100% legit, that the Matrix may be real. And it says that, we may be... I didn't read it because no.
You thought you could just bluff your way through by reading the headline?
I didn't think that. I saw the word...
This proves we're not in the Matrix. I think a computer simulation would be better organised than you.
Louis Schaefer, no. You know what I think about physics professors. So this is a Melvin, anybody named Melvin I can't trust, Vopson. He's an associate professor of physics at the University of Portsmouth. That's your town.
I actually went there.
They've got there.
I'm a product.
They've got a university in Portsmouth.
Yeah, it's mainly sort of, how to steal cars, etc. But it's a university.
They've got cars in Portsmouth.
The least legitimate scientist, if you can call them scientists, is a physics professor.
From the University of Portsmouth. But the Matrix, maybe Rob heard this before. I think Elon Musk has also said, there's in fact a 99% chance we are living in a simulation, which would explain classical religion, the idea of a God watching you, because they can watch you. Anyway, that's the front pages covered. Join us in part 2 for Black Lives Matter supporting Hamas, J.K. Rowling not supporting Labour, and an asteroid that could support life. See you in a moment.
Who is it? We're here for the show.
More energy this time!
Welcome to the Dinosaur Hour. I was married to a therapist.
And you survived?
I thought we were getting Hugh Laurie. Second best. You interviewed Saddam Hussein. What's that like?
I was terrified. I'm playing strip poker with these three.
Ah!
No, thank you.
My CDs need to be put in alphabetical order.
Are you going to be problematic again?
The Dinosaur Hour. Sunday, the 29th of October at 9 on GB News.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
People in Britain, they love free speech, but they also love fair play.
I don't care if I'm speaking somebody from a trade union, from the Labour Party, somebody from the SNP. And I think the viewers like to see that actually we can challenge one another, but in a positive way.
We think we ask the questions that people want to ask, and often we ask the questions that we wanted to ask in Parliament but never got the chance to ask.
So join us every Saturday, 10 a.m. till noon on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Nightmare commute. Kick it up a gear with me, Patrick Christie's at Drive Time, 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+, on the smart speaker app and on the GB News app. And if you've got an Alexa, all you have to say is, Alexa, play GB News. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with me, Patrick Christie's, on GB News and GB News Radio.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you. Every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm Leo Kearson. I'm still here with Paul Cox and Lewis Schaefer. And let's kick off with The Guardian, with reports from Sheffield, where Israel and Hamas are apparently battling for control of Sheffield, Lewis.
Yes, well, this is more in the biggest story of our time. I'm sorry to say, it's the end of the world. I shouldn't be so pessimistic, but anyway, I'm not even going to say that I'm Jewish. Nobody needs to know that. Anyway, protesters scale Sheffield Town Hall to remove Israeli flag. A pro-Palestine rally in the city. And according to Sheffield City Council, the flag was not destroyed. They got the flag back.
So they just took the flag down, neatly folded it up, and didn't burn it.
And maybe said a prayer over it, like we say, a prayer over it. The fact is,
do you think Sheffield Council might have just grabbed another Israeli flag so they could say, to avoid inflaming the tensions, they could say no, it was handed in fine?
I wouldn't put it past them. At the end of the day, isn't Sheffield one of these like asylum-seeking cities?
Well, yeah, it's a sanctuary city, and here we've got footage of the Israeli flag being taken down by one of the protesters.
Well, that's not 200 feet up. It said in the article it's 200.
It's 60 feet, I think it said.
Oh, did they say 60 feet?
Yeah. And then did they get the Palestinian? Yeah, they got the Palestinian flag up there. I mean, that's shocking. That's to be, so soon when there's still blood drying in Israel.
A case could be made that Israel's made a proper hash of it by doing what they did. Unfortunately.
By doing what?
By revenge, by acting out of revenge, which is totally human on their part, but it doesn't. It's not going to.
But they're taking revenge against Hamas. They're taking revenge against the militants who did it.
And it's not going to make them win. They're not going to win the sympathy of anybody really. I think they expect the Jews just to sort of sit down and cry and just be done with it. They don't expect an act of violence. I don't know if it was the right thing to do.
Paul, I mean, have you been surprised by the protests, the pro-Palestinian protests? Because I thought they'd at least wait until, perhaps until Israel had struck back in a meaningful way and, entered Gaza in a ground invasion. Instead, as soon as it was broadcast, as soon as the invasion was broadcast, there weren't so much Palestinian protests as pro-Palestinian celebrations. It looked like.
I'm not surprised, actually, and I don't think any of us are. I think what we're seeing is just a continuation of the type of thing we've seen around the country for years now. Whenever there's been terrorist attacks in the UK, there's been small parts of the population from the Muslim community that have just been outrageously supporting whatever it is that they think they're trying to defend.
Well, and the shocking thing now is that it's not. I mean, you'd expect, perhaps from some of the Muslim community to support it. But it's been plenty of non-Muslims, plenty of woke people who see it as, part of some decolonisation. They've been programmed with all the, Black Lives Matter and all this woke ideology about, oppression and all these terms that justify the most horrific, barbaric crimes.
Well, it's the act of people involved in a cult, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And that's the cult of, well, let's call it wokeism, but it's just modernity, progression, whatever you want to call it, this soup of ridiculousness where they have decided these things are in and these things are out, and it doesn't matter if babies are being killed or what, they're going to support it anyway. Just ridiculous.
We say progressiveness or progression, but they're siding with medieval barbarians. I mean,
but they don't care, they don't understand, they're not educated in that way. They're educated to go along with the crowd.
Right.
And what is the crowd? What is the crowd? Sorry, I didn't mean to do.
No, absolutely. I think it's a great question.
Yeah.
People are afraid to go against the crowd because if they do, then they end up getting treated poorly. They're embarrassed in some way.
There is truth to that, but I think there's an underlying core belief system which embodies this thing, which is like, we don't really care if this happens to Israelis or Jews, because they don't think that Israel has a right to exist, because we're one world where you call it wokeism. It's not wokeism. It's just sort of it's like a one world attitude. There's no borders. We're all alike. There's no culture.
But that doesn't explain why you'd say, well, yes, it's okay to kill these people because we're all one world. I don't understand.
Because in their mind, that these people inherently have done something wrong by kicking the Palestinians off of their country.
So they're woke people are anti-immigration. I thought I'd never see the day. Anyway, moving on, we've got the Express now, and Black Lives Matter have come out in support of terrorists murdering children, and not everyone likes it, Paul.
No. Premier League urged to stop taking a knee for Black Lives Matter over its support for Hamas terrorists. So this has come from Conservative MPs who have criticised the Marxist group. This is the Express's language, not mine. Marxist group, Black Lives Matter.
Well, that's also Black Lives Matter language. They describe themselves as a Marxist group.
They do. That's a very good point. They actually do. You're actually right. Within their literature, they do. I would say this. BLM is the biggest contrick of my life. They have managed to convince large swathes of this planet that it's a force for good.
Yeah.
Do you know the Premier League, and it still probably is rumbling around in the background, used to have an anti-racism campaign called Kick It Out. And it was an awareness campaign. Players would wear the T-shirts. I'm a football fan. I don't want to see racism on the terrorists like I did in the 1980s when my dad used to first take me down to Fratton Park to watch Pompey play. But this has got so far away from it that I think that it's like the Emperor's clothes now. The Premier League, the players, they all think they're doing a good thing, but they don't know what they're kneeling for. Now, what they're saying is they're kneeling for something else. But at the end of the day, they're doing it in the name of BLM. Yeah. And they're doing it for the wrong reasons.
And how did BLM show their support for Hamas?
Sorry, yeah.
Well, they've been tweeting it out.
Oh, in fact, we've got pictures of the tweets here. So this is Black Lives Matter UK saying solidarity with those resisting Israeli war crimes and military occupation. We say free Palestine and support the practical solidarity of Palestinian action. And another tweet, this is from BLM Chicago, says, that is all, that is it. And it shows, I mean, this is the most shocking one, it actually shows one of the militants who travelled in a sort of a hang glider with a fan at the back, like a parachute with a fan at the back, sort of like Wile E. Coyote, and flew in to massacre the people, the youths at the music festival. So that's a clear, that's not standing in solidarity with the Palestinian people, that's a clear reference to Hamas.
Had I or you tweeted that image, it would be considered hate speech, and we'd have a knock on the door from a police officer in modern Britain. No two ways about it. I know that took place in the States, and they're lucky to have free speech written into their constitution.
Well, it's bizarre.
But that is inflammatory.
Oh, absolutely, and it's bizarre that some of the protests, the pro-Palestinian protests, have been chanting horrific things like "gas the Jews," which is something that, you know, if anybody, if any of us said it, we'd be. I mean, Count Dankula, when he said it in a joke, was convicted of a crime.
His pug said it.
Well, he said it to his pug, but it was clearly part of a joke, and it was obviously not actually celebrating Hitler. The joke rested on the dichotomy between the absolute evil of Hitler and the cuteness of the pug. Whereas when Guardian readers say it for real in a protest, they get a pass. I really don't understand how that works.
Well, like Jimmy Carter, the great American president, said, life is not fair. Life's not fair. There's a lot of hypocrisy going on. I mean, it's just, you have to know that there's a war going on. I say it every single time. The people who are in favor of this act of terrorism against the Jews are fighting for an overall one-world government.
Yeah.
Of course, they're thinking in their head, well, that world is going to be run by them, right? But that's where it comes from. So there's...
I would say, by the way, that I would support that person's right to tweet that. I absolutely would do, because I believe in free speech. But I should be able to... So the same rule should be applied to you and I.
So
Not that I would ever want to do anything of that nature.
You want to be racist.
No, I think that we should be able to see everything and anything for what it is, OK?
Right.
So, but you're seeing this as a free speech issue. And this is a great station for free speech. But at the end of the day, it's like these people... It's like when you talk about Joe Biden and you say Joe Biden is incompetent. And everyone knows he's incompetent. But if you're a Democrat, you can't see it. It's like you can't see.
But also this, I mean, tweets like this could encourage and inflame tensions in the Middle East and lead to, you know, genuine violence and bloodshed, or excuse people, embolden people to commit it. So, yeah, it's obviously horrific. Anyway, we've got the Times now, and J.K. Rowling says that Labour's stance on trans issues is stupid. Wait till she hears their tax policies, Lewis.
Yeah, well, J.K. Rowling attacks Labour's Lisa Nandy over stance on trans rights. Lisa Nandy is the shadow international development secretary. I don't know if that's even is that even a real position?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah.
Anyway, she made a speech saying women's rights, women's rights, women's rights, and it sounded almost believable until J.K. Rowling said, "Hey, you know, you've come down on being against Women's Place UK, which is trying to stop biological men from going into women's spaces. So you're not in favor of women."
Yeah.
And
although Lisa Nandy would say, well, those males that want to go into prison, they are women, because look at their pronouns in their Twitter bio, and you know, look at their badly applied lipstick. So she would say they're real women. As soon as somebody says they're a woman, that's it. They're a woman. The self-ID law that she promotes says that. And in the past, she says, I think trans women are women and trans men are men, and I think they should be in the prison of their choosing.
Yeah.
I mean, do we need a trial first? Or it seems quite hardcore.
Let's have 2 weeks in a women's prison in Bedfordshire, please. I mean, do you know what?
Cheaper than a hotel.
Yeah, probably would be, trust me. But Lisa Nandy, I remember when she ran for Labour leader when Keir Starmer won, and I was quite impressed by Lisa Nandy. I always thought she came across very well. However, she's totally caught in this trans debate web.
Right.
She can't get herself out of it now. And J.K. Rowling's a legend. I've always said this.
Yeah.
She'll go down in history in much the same way as suffragettes did. And it's a shame, because Lisa Nandy had an opportunity to do the same thing, being a woman in politics. But right now she is completely and utterly caught like a fly in the trans debate web.
Yeah. Well, we've got the Mail now with an asteroid that could wipe out humanity in 150 years, although I'd be amazed if we made it to the end of the week, Paul.
NASA today shared its long-awaited analysis of samples collected from an ancient rock which could crash into Earth in 150 years. The space agency sent a probe to the 1,250-foot asteroid, Bennu, in 2020 as part of a landmark mission to collect samples, which is being studied at a top lab in Texas.
Right. This is where the next COVID is going to come from.
Oh, it's unbelievable. Do you know what I'd like to say? Why do NASA in particular like to tell us every 2 weeks when the world's going to end? We have spent I have not spent any money on this, but US taxpayers, I assume, have spent $1 billion. $1 billion
on the Bennu mission.
On the Bennu mission to tell us something anyone could have told them.
Well, there's a picture of it. That's quite cool. And also, apparently it contains a lot of carbon, which is essential for life on Earth, and clay that holds water. So it could explain how life formed in the solar system. It's a snapshot of the solar system a long time ago.
Well, anything that NASA says you can't believe. One word, as always, Velikovsky, is that this little rock, right, has water, oxygen, and hydrogen. So what does that make? Hydrocarbons, right? So we're calling hydrocarbons in this country fossil fuels, as if they only came from dinosaurs. Were there any dinosaurs on this little rock? The answer is no. There were no dinosaurs in this rock. The whole planet, the whole world is loaded with water, oxygen, and hydrogen, and carbon, carbon, right? So at the end of the day, the second most important thing is none of these rocks actually hit Earth. They will never hit Earth, and they don't hit Earth.
Well, I reckon it's going to happen
because of the force of the what do you call the stuff that's surrounding.
Speaking of oxygen, are you getting enough oxygen? This is anyway. That's it for part 2. Coming up next, we've got frogs avoiding sex, racist robots, and trans-inclusive Morris dancers. Don't go away.
It's my worst show.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to ordinary people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
The Live Desk with me, Mark Longhurst.
And me, Pip Thompson. It's here Monday to Friday on GB News.
From midday, we'll bring you the news as it breaks, whenever it's happening and wherever it's happening, from across the UK and around the world.
Refreshing, feisty, but with a bit of fun too.
If it matters to you, we'll have it covered on TV, radio and online.
Join the Live Desk on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
So Jubes and Kerr, we tackle the issues of the day with real robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you. Every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News,
the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. We've got The Guardian now, and female frogs lie motionless to stop male frogs having sex with them. But won't the male frogs just think that they're English, Lewis?
British. It's not British. It's not just English.
Well, what are you saying about Northern Irish women?
Well, I'm familiar with British women. Or some of them were English. Anyway, female frogs appear to fake death to avoid unwanted advances, study shows. And this is out of Germany. They've been watching the European common frog. And, I mean, I don't know why.
Calling it common as well.
Yeah,
they're really laying on the slurs.
Outrageous.
Yeah. And this is published in the Royal Society Open Science Journal. It says that women frogs, if they're not happy with somebody, will just basically spread out like this and just pretend that they're dead.
I mean, that sounds like something that would make you go faster, Lewis.
Well, no, it doesn't. It's like, it's just bad lovers, basically. And I think it tends to work. That's what they say. It tends to work.
Right.
Of course it does.
Yeah, of course it does.
If you think you've killed her,
yes.
you're best to leave it alone, aren't you?
Especially nowadays. Maybe back in the day you could get away with it.
Paul, do you want to destroy your career with a comment on this?
I don't know, it just reminds me. I mean, I love it. It's brilliant. OK, good on them. Good on the female frogs. It reminds me of lying like this reminds me of a time when I was about 5.
Yeah.
I threw a load of wet Weetabix on my bedroom floor and told my mum I'd been sick, so I didn't have to go to school.
Oh, brilliant.
And,
that's clever.
Yeah, and I'd also drawn on me some red spots as well. I felt it then. So I'm basically a female frog.
Right. Anyway, the scientists say that renting is more stressful than being unemployed. Well, yeah, everything's more stressful than being unemployed. I've been unemployed. It's dead easy. You don't have to do anything, Paul.
Yeah, stress of renting ages you twice as quick as being unemployed, claims scientists. I mean, scientists also claim that the vaccine would stop the virus spreading, I just want to add.
You conspiracy theorist.
It doesn't stop the virus spreading.
Yeah.
I've got a load of vaccine running through my veins, and I've had it loads of times.
Shouldn't you deny that, Leo? Don't you have to?
No, because I think that's fact. I think it's just well and truly factual now.
You can catch COVID if you've had the vaccine.
So
you can catch COVID if you haven't had the vaccine. I haven't had the vaccine and I've caught COVID.
So, I mean, I've really derailed this. This is not about the vaccine at all. This is about scientists doing ridiculous work. So they're saying that renting in the private sector leads to quicker biological ageing than owning your own home or being social or being in social housing, the study finds. I think what they found is that people who pay £2,000 a month to live in a hellhole are largely depressed and would probably be better off being unemployed because at least somebody would help them out and just put them in a cheaper hellhole. So I don't know what we're learning from this sort of stuff. I think renting, personally, my own philosophy is that renting is a waste of time. I think it's a very British way of looking at life. But, I had my first mortgage when I was 20, which I know is very young. Yeah. But I very much believe in the idea of ownership.
Yeah, well done you. That's amazing. And on the continent, I mean, a lot of countries, they rent instead of owning their homes. It's always been a sort of conservative dream to own property.
And they could be just as rich if you invest your money. Unfortunately, people don't invest their money when they're renting. This guy, they don't know what it's like to have your mortgage double in a month, and then double again in 2 months, and then double again in 3 months. That's what's happening right now.
I don't think that happened.
They don't know how stressful.
I think it went up.
It's playing Monopoly.
600 quid.
No, that is not true. No, it doubled. It doubled in a month. Really? It went from 1 to 2, and then which is the. I'm not going to go into more.
Exactly.
But take my word, it doubled.
That's our financial
it was a super low level. But
Lewis Schaefer there. Anyway, we've got the sun now, and scientists have worked out how to get pig kidneys into humans. Is it by putting them in a pie, Lewis?
It's not by putting them in a pie. It's by cutting them open. But this is the biggest non-news story ever. Scientists.
No, this is interesting. They found a way to make the body not reject because obviously it's a foreign protein.
They haven't done it. They just said one pig's kidney lasted for 2 years, but the rest of them that they tested, 21 macaque monkeys, one of them, the rest of them lasted only 2-3 weeks. So they didn't really do a good job.
Well, not for the other macaques.
And they've been putting animals' body parts in humans for decades.
But they take the frame, don't they? They take the frame of a heart or something. So it's not the actual the meaty bit that will stimulate an immune response and get it rejected from the body.
They've taken the kidneys and the liver and stuff like that, and they put it in human bodies.
This sounds like a Scottish delicacy. Just put it in a sheep's stomach and mash it up.
Sounds delicious, is what it sounds like, Leo. I mean, the good news is they've been able to grow a human kidney in a pig. And the bad news is they've been able to grow a human kidney in a pig, but it doesn't work particularly well.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, good on them, and keep going for, you know, people who've got kidney failure and other sorts of kidney disease. This is good news. Small steps, but good news.
Yeah.
No, I'm glad they're working on it. As a person who has stage 3A chronic kidney disease, which is bad but not horrific, but it's still bad. People who need dialysis is not a cure. And it only lasts for 5 years, so it's horrific. So maybe I should speak up for the kidney people out there. But
show a bit of gratitude
to the kidney people.
To the people with bad kidneys. It's really a major, major problem.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed, we're going to get it solved using science. Anyway, we've got the Telegraph now with trans-inclusive Morris dancers. Are we generating these headlines using a dartboard, Paul?
We might well be. We do love this subject for sure. Morris dancers drop men from the name to be trans-inclusive, but still exclude women. Oh, really? The troupe is changing its name from Brighton Morris Men to Brighton Morris in order to attract anyone who presents as male, including biological females. Now, confusing stuff. Yeah. And I think trans people have got enough problems without identifying as Morris dancers as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know who they're trying to appeal to here. Morris dancing is kind of an exclusive group anyway, because no one wants to do it.
Yeah. And also, if you've transitioned to being male and you want to pass as male, putting bells on your ankles and prancing around with handkerchiefs probably isn't, your stereotypical male behavior.
But they are letting women participate. I think trans men were born women, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So they are letting women participate. So it's not that they're
they're men, because they're trans men.
Right, but but to some people...
According to Lisa Nandy.
But to some people... Did I just get into trouble unnecessarily?
No, you didn't get into trouble at all. All you're proving is the three of us cover at least 4 trans stories a day, and after 18 months of it, we still haven't got a clue what's going on.
It's all trans all the time. That's what GBNews is.
We've got the Telegraph now warning that machines could learn to be racist and sexist by noticing patterns in data, Lewis.
Yes, exactly. Racist and sexist, this is the Telegram, racist and sexist AI bots are a risk to the financial system more than the Bank of England. And what they're saying is that given enough chance, the artificial intelligence will figure out it's not a good bet to loan money to women. And that's what they...
Are you speaking from experience here, Lewis?
Well, I'm not saying all women. My girlfriend's quite... I shouldn't have mentioned that I have a girlfriend. But my girlfriend is quite good at money. I am not. But I'm making a generalization for the sake of comedy. But they're saying...
Okay, is that what was happening?
Yeah, what? It's a joke. I'm making a joke.
We're just trying to identify it.
Hold on, she's calling me. I didn't mean it that way. I'm sorry. No. I've apologized already.
Yeah, but doesn't this lend some credibility to perhaps some prejudiced attitudes that machines can just machines surely aren't biased. They're not brought up and told to be these people are bad or anything like that. But just by looking at the data and looking at patterns of behaviour, they learn to be racist and sexist.
Machines aren't born racist.
It's
basically,
nobody's programming them to be racist.
What's mental about this is you only give them a little bit of data, and in a couple of months they're racist and sexist. So I mean, who's to blame here? They're the one who's interpreting the data. Data is sexist.
Yeah. So then you've got to go in and deprogram them, like reprogram them not to be racist.
Well, that's why this is an article, and that's why the Bank of England is against it. I guarantee if the Bank of England said don't give money to men, there'd be no article, there'd be no report, everything would be fine.
Well, yeah, because the issue is that these machines could breach diversity and inclusion regulations.
Right, so they can't
discriminate. Yeah.
I mean, but they're machines.
They are machines. Well, we've got one more section. We've got plus-size models, bad bed bug news, and time blindness. Find out how that can get you fired in just a couple of minutes.
Who is it? We're here for the show.
Welcome to the Dinosaur Hour. I was married to a therapist.
And you survived?
I thought we were getting Hugh Laurie.
Second best.
You interviewed Saddam Hussein. What's that like?
I was terrified. I'm playing strip poker with these three.
Oh! No, thank you.
My CDs need to be put in alphabetical order.
Are you going to be problematic again?
The Dinosaur Hour. Sunday, the 29th of October at 9 on GB News.
Join me, Andrew Pearce and Bev Turner, Monday to Thursday, 9:30 a.m.
Who benefits from that? Not the British public.
And on Fridays, join us, Tom Harwood
And Ellie Costello from Britain's Newsroom.
That's what you get with this show. That's fantastic.
If it's happening, we're talking about it on Britain's Newsroom.
GB News, Britain's news channel.
Now then, Lee Anderson here. Join me on GB News on my show, The Real World, every Friday at 7 p.m.
I'm not eating bloody cat. Are you
Delicious.
mental?
Open your mouth. OK, here comes a train.
Reminds me of the scene in Singing in the Rain.
Adam, is that a good one?
Whoa! Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it. So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. We've got the Express now, and 9 out of 10 young people are totally deluded about the pyramids and think they were built by humans, Paul.
Yeah, it says this. 1 in 10 young adults believe the pyramids of Giza were built by aliens. That's because they were, Leo. Massive, giant, racist aliens that made the Jewish people build the pyramids. I don't know if that's true or not. And the Express don't know either, but I'll tell you what the Express don't know. It's because no one actually really knows exactly how the pyramids are built. It's way beyond the scope of the technology available at the time. I mean, I know they say that, you know, lots of people drag things up on logs or whatever. Have you seen the things? It's incredible. So, I mean, the point of this story really is that, you know, children and young adults have got access to the internet, and therefore they're getting to see all sorts of conspiracy theories and different versions of the news. And do you know what? They can figure it out for themselves.
I mean, Lewis, what do you think? I mean, this is a slur on your people who did a fantastic job.
Well, supposedly, I've just been told we didn't build the pyramids. We built some storehouses nearby, whatever. But we still haven't gotten paid for it. So, you know, I think they say the Jews are good business people, but we still haven't gotten paid for it. But this story basically is one of those stories that says nobody knows anything about anything. Nobody knows about the pyramids. I'm surprised that even this many people know.
You certainly get that impression watching this show.
Yeah, and it says this study was commissioned by who? By the Sega Europe Limited, which is a computer games company. They're promoting their you got to read closely. This is
just a press release to promote some pyramid games.
To promote some computer.
You know what it is? It's a pyramid scheme. Anyway, we've got the Mirror now with a woman unaware of the invention of the alarm clock, Lewis.
Yeah, this is a woman blasts boss for not accepting quote-unquote time blindness as reason for her tardiness. And she's on Twitter. She's not Twitter, excuse me, on TikTok. And she does a video saying her boss boss. She complained to her boss because she can't get to work on time, and her boss said, "Get to work on time, otherwise we're firing you." And she said that was bad.
Discriminatory against her because she's got time blindness. I mean, this is why we've all got time blindness, so you buy a watch or you buy an alarm clock and then the machine does it for you.
And you make an effort. And what was good about this is that she complained that the boss complained about her, saying, "You young kids today, you don't know hard work, you don't know about being on time." And I love when I hear that, because I'm reminded of what a loser, bad employee I was all those years. And I feel like it's always good when you're older to go, "Oh, these kids today, they're worthless compared to me." But I was very bad.
Horrible.
Horrible.
I mean, the context of this is that she was being interviewed.
Yeah.
I mean,
this was in a job interview.
Yeah, something you like about Gen X, which is essentially you and I, Leo, but at least we know how to lie in an interview. Yeah, you've got to give the best possible impression of yourself, and then let the employer find out at some point that you were totally pulling their leg. Yeah. I mean, this is madness. No, she's not only that, she then taken to social media and said, "I can't believe this." You're like, "Man, you are getting this all wrong." It's outrageous, really. I mean, she's stupid.
That is some level of entitledness. We've got the Telegraph now with bad news for anyone with bed bugs, Paul.
Yeah, insurers will not pay out over bedbug infestations. Major providers of home cover confirm the cost of removing bedbugs or repairing any damage is not included in most policies. Neither is anything else, by the way. I don't know if anyone... home insurance, I don't know, out there. I mean, honestly, it's a right scam. I once had a load of cladding fall off the side of my house because of hurricane-level winds, and they said, "We don't really cover for weather." Well, why have I got it? Why else is it going to fall off? So I'm not surprised. I mean, this is obviously following on from the bed bug infestation of France that people seem to be worried about coming over here. Yeah. I think we've got a slightly bigger problem.
It sounds like private medical care, because my granddad had private medical care, and he had something go wrong with his intestines, and they fixed it, and then they're like, "Right, your intestines aren't covered anymore."
Because they were fixed.
Yeah. No, because there was something wrong with them, so they were going to go wrong again. So they're like, "Well, we don't want to pay for that."
Mental.
Well, why should they pay for it? Your father was broken.
Because he was giving them money every month.
Not
probably.
Anyway, but this is bedbug infestation. I mean, they're talking like that, like there's some new disease or something. It's been bedbugs forever.
There'll probably be a lockdown.
It's a slur on the French people.
OK, we've got the Star now, and women are angry that only 1% of models are plus size. But when you account for the space they take up in the advert, surely that rises to about 5%, Lewis?
Boo. Boo. I don't support that at all. As a person who used to be fat, I know. At the end of the... Yeah, it just says, according to Vogue, this is a Vogue business that they do an inclusivity award. New study shows that less than 1% of models
can pronounce it.
You know what? The truth is, fat is bad. I mean, I look fat now. There's something about the TV that makes me look fat. I look amazing. Paul is really fat. But I mean, I don't know if you can tell how slender and beautiful I am, but I used to be fat. And I'm telling everybody out there, don't blame yourself for being fat. Food is delicious.
It is.
Food is Moorish, and plants make you fat. Stop eating carbs that are in plants.
Yeah. Paul, what do you make of this? I mean, less than 1% of models are plus size. I mean, actually, considering the amount of adverts I've seen where they have fat women, I'm surprised it's just 1%.
The same things have always sold. Sex sells, and attractive people sell, and
why people watch this show.
Exactly why they watch this show, and more likely than not, people will find slimmer people attractive. One thing that's, and I say that being a plus-size model myself. It says in here, although the world is becoming more diverse, the world is not becoming more diverse. The world has always been diverse. Yeah. It's madness to say something like that. That's upset me more than anything else in this. Well, the world is becoming more fat slightly, I'd imagine.
Yeah, 67%
incredibly.
In America.
In America, it's insane how the level is just over quite a short period of time. We're talking like 20 years. They've become so much fatter. Anyway, the show is nearly over, so let's take another quick look at Thursday's front pages. The Daily Mail leads with, "The King calls them terrorists. Why can't the BBC?" The Telegraph has, "Royals condemn Hamas attacks as terrorism." The Times has Israeli coalition ready to invade. The Guardian leads with Israelis suspended between fear, grief and foreboding. The Express has outrage over order not to jail rapists as prisons are full. The Daily Star leads with BOF reveals something we don't understand but sounds 100% legit and also a little bit frightening. The Matrix may be real, and those were your front pages, and that's all we have time for. Thank you to my guests, Paul Cox and Lewis Schaefer. Nick Dixon is in the hot seat tomorrow, joined by Steve N. Allen and Josh Howie. And if you're watching at 5 a.m, stay tuned for breakfast. Bye.
Who is it?
We're here for the show.
More energy this time!
Welcome to the Dinosaur Hour. I was married to a therapist.
And you survived?
I thought we were getting Hugh Laurie.
Second best.
You interviewed Saddam Hussein. What's that like?
I was terrified. I'm playing strip poker with these three.
No, thank you.
My CDs need to be put in alphabetical order.
Are you going to be problematic again?
The Dinosaur Hour. Sunday, the 29th of October at 9 on GB News.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
People in Britain, they love free speech, but they also love fair play.
I don't care if I'm speaking somebody from a trade union, from the Labour Party, somebody from the SNP. And I think the viewers like to see that actually we can challenge one another, but in a positive way.
We think we ask the questions that people want to ask, and often we ask the questions that we wanted to ask in Parliament but never got the chance to ask.
So join us every Saturday, 10 a.m. till noon on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Nightmare commute. Kick it up a gear with me, Patrick Christie's at Drive Time, 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+, on the smart speaker app and on the GB News app. And if you've got an Alexa, all you have to say is, Alexa, play GB News. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with me, Patrick Christie's, on GB News and GB News Radio.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you. Every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening. Christopher Hope interviews Sir Keir Starmer up in Liverpool, and tonight we debate, does he look like a Prime Minister in waiting? As the King speaks out on Israel, we go to Tel Aviv to get the latest situation, and a potentially disastrous piece of news for the government in the Rwanda court hearing. All of that in just a moment, but first, let's get the news with Polly Middlehurst.
Nigel, thank you and good evening to you. Well, the top story tonight from the GB newsroom is that Israel is warning its residents in the north of the country to stay home and lock doors, raising possible concerns of a possible infiltration into the north. Israel Defence Forces say at least a dozen drones were spotted in the region about an hour ago, but there's no evidence of any impact following the aerial alerts. And earlier, the UK's Foreign Secretary, who's currently in